After Jesus gave up his spirit on the cross, the Bible said he descended to the lower parts of the earth. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 9. What does he ascended mean, except that he also descended to the lower parts of the earth? So if he ascended, that meant he first descended to the lower parts of the earth. And notice from this verse, there are various parts below the earth. Firstly, Jesus would have descended into Tartarus to declare his victory over sin to the imprisoned spirits being held there. Tartarus is a special place in the underworld reserved for these imprisoned spirits. 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 19, after being made alive, he went and made proclamation to the imprisoned spirits. These imprisoned spirits were the fallen angels who sided with Satan. Unlike the other fallen angels who are presently causing havoc upon mankind, these angels were bound with chains before time, and now they are awaiting judgment. And we see this in 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 4. If God didn't spare the angels who sinned, but threw them down into Tartarus and delivered them to be kept in chains of darkness until judgment. These angels were judged beforehand because they committed an atrocious act of having sex with women during the days of Noah, and you can read about this in Genesis chapter 6. The devil's plan was to corrupt the genetic makeup of mankind in an attempt to prevent the promised Messiah from being born. You see, Jesus was prophesied to be born of a woman and that he would crush the devil's head, bringing about his defeat. So it would make sense that Jesus went to proclaim his victory over the devil to the very same spirits that tried to stop him. And this is what he did. Jesus declared his victory over the devil to these imprisoned spirits, signaling their imminent judgment. Secondly, Jesus would have descended to liberate the Old Testament believers who were waiting on the Messiah. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 8. Therefore it says, when he ascended on high, he led a host of captives, and he gave gifts to men. And in Hosea chapter 13 verse 14, I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. O death, I will be your plagues. O grave, I will be your destruction. Pity is hidden from my eyes. You see, my friend, death was our enemy. And for Jesus to save us, he had to ransom us from death. And this is what he did. He did not hold back. He let death have it good. For his mind was completely fixed on saving you, my friend. This is your Savior's heart towards you. So these captives were the Old Testament believers who believed in the Messiah to come. And when they died, they went to a part of the underworld called paradise, or Abraham's bosom. And this is a place of comfort, not torment. Even though the Old Testament believers believed in the Messiah, their sins would not be ransomed until Jesus died on the cross. So until that point, they were bound by the power of death, meaning that they could not ascend to heaven to be with God. Jesus went into paradise to gather the Old Testament believers and ascend them to heaven. Jesus would have preached the gospel of himself to them, confirming the fulfillment of the scriptures. That is the message that he died for their sins to ransom them from the power of death. 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 6. But the gospel has for this purpose been preached, even to those who are dead, that though they are judged in the flesh as men, they may live in the spirit according to the will of God. So to summarize, Jesus would have descended into Tartarus to preach a message of judgment to the spirits in prison. Secondly, he would have preached a message of salvation to the faithful dead in Abraham's bosom. This was not because they needed to be saved, but to fulfill the salvation of their spirits. For Jesus preaching the gospel to the faithful dead was not giving the dead a second chance at salvation, for they had already believed in the Messiah. Jesus preached the gospel of himself to the dead to fulfill the promise of their salvation, because the time had finally come when Jesus had conquered sin and death and brought eternal life to his saints.